I mean, even walking through the parks and looking up at all the birdhouses and the trees, you get this very tangible sense that you're in this storybook here in Vilnius. Hey y'all, and welcome back to A Sense of Travel. I'm Michael, and I'm on a mission on this channel to document all 5 senses of as many cities, countries, and natural wonders around the world as I possibly can, so that I can accurately immerse you into those experiences through the screen. This week, we are in Vilnius, Lithuania. I cannot wait to bring you guys along through all 5 senses, so let's get started.
When I arrived in Vilnius in the spring of 2024, I had no idea what to expect. Oftentimes, this is how I like it, because when you don't know what you're getting into, anything can feel like a pleasant surprise. In Vilnius's case, my visit was full of nothing but pleasant surprises. I really loved this city. Vilnius is the capital of Lithuania and home to over 600,000 people. But you wouldn't know it because the entire place feels like it belongs on the face of a charming postcard of quaint, forested European villages. Today, I want to invite you to experience Vilnius with me as I walk through the sights, sounds, tastes, feels, and smells that create the experience so that you can accurately imagine yourself strolling the picturesque cobbles alongside me. So, let's dive in. Vilnius sits in a bit of a basin surrounded by tall, rolling, forested hills. This was a bit surprising to me, given just how flat the other Baltic capitals are. In the center of that basin, on the edge of 2 small rivers, is one of the largest old towns in Europe, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Vilnius's old town is probably the most charming I have ever seen, and I mean that wholeheartedly. The cobblestone streets, winding around the bright, green hills and the bends of the streaming Vilnia River, are lined with warm-colored buildings that, at most, only reach up to about 4 stories tall, before capping out at their red clay terracotta roofs. The beige, pink, and brown facades on these old, medieval buildings are smooth and a bit less ornamental than in places like Prague or Riga, and certainly a bit more weathered. To me, this just adds to that rustic charm. Most of the buildings have elegant patios, and a lot of these patios and roof balustrades are draped in green netting, presumably to prevent falling pieces. That isn't to say that there isn't ornamentalism, though. Vilnius has one of the largest collections of Baroque architecture in the world, and this is clear just by looking up. Gorgeous, twin bell towers poke up above the horizon at literally every turn with colorful, decorative Baroque domes. On the hour, you'll hear the heavy bells within these towers chiming throughout the city. Religious architecture and religion itself played a decently large role in the shaping of Vilnius, even though Lithuania was one of the last countries in Europe to adopt Christianity.
Now, the Gate of Dawn is pretty important to Vilnius, not just because it was once a medieval fortress and watchtower protecting the city, but it's also a very important staple and kind of icon in the Lithuanian Catholic pilgrimage.
The old town of Vilnius is home to one of the oldest universities in the entire world, and is home to over 20,000 students. Vilnius University. The beautiful campus is interwoven through the medieval streets and town, and there's a very clear presence of college students in general. This adds to that fun and lively atmosphere in Vilnius for sure, but at night, things can get a little rowdy. That said, there are certainly more perks than not. Some of the little courtyards or galleries throughout the city are filled with cool little hidden spots that feel like laid-back party atmospheres. College towns are great. Of course, nothing fits the vibe of a college town quite like a self-proclaimed independent republic defying the norms and status quo.
Just like every good university town should, Vilnius actually has a community that has declared itself as an independent republic. Depending on who you ask, this is the real heartbeat of Vilnius.
Užupis even has their own constitution. It's not formally recognized, obviously, and there's really nothing inherently different about this district, but it's a cool little countercultural area and certainly funny. I mean, they even have their own border control and a standing army of 12 people. It smells great here, I will add. There are a ton of delicious bakery scents on that main thoroughfare. Generally, Vilnius's old town carries the additional scents of walnut trees, rich grass, auto fumes, and musty cobblestones. Užupis may be a self-proclaimed republic, but there really is a lot of Lithuanian pride here, and I love that. They've had a tough history of invasion and occupation. The yellow, green, and red Lithuanian tricolor flies high and proud pretty much everywhere, a great source of Lithuanian pride. And that part makes sense to me. I mean, it's an awesome flag. Pilies Street, cutting right down the center of the old town, seems like a classic European high street. As if you're walking through a postcard, the colorful and leafy atmosphere is filled with the relaxing sounds of pedestrians on cobbled stone, the clatter of street dining cutlery, birds chirping, and the soft breeze through the trees. Speaking of trees, almost all of the old streets are lined with them, which is something quite unusual in old medieval towns. Pilies Street has an absolutely gorgeous view of a bright, vibrant green hill topped with a brick tower fortress. This is the last remaining tower of the original Upper Vilnius Castle, Gediminas Tower. It's a hike up the hill, but let me tell y'all, the views over Vilnius are gorgeous. It's from up here that you notice a very distinct difference between the old and new Vilnius. On the newer side, you'll find several high-rises, most of which are modern, innovatively designed, and feel very 21st century. These sit in a cluster across the larger of the two rivers in town, the Neris, whose dark, cascading waters wind through the city. You'll notice a lot of concrete, a lot of boxy 20th century high-rises, and flat roof lines. There are also a lot of cranes, a great sign that Vilnius is growing. Off in the distance, a piercing standalone silhouette, the Vilnius TV tower, resembles Berlin's and Toronto's. Way off in the distance, you can see communities of tons of Soviet high-rises, which, I'm not gonna lie, look incredibly depressing. On the Old Town side, however, a weathered sea of terracotta and warm, faded, colorful facades await, jumbled together in a blanket over the rolling, vibrant, bright green hills and parks. Domes from the Baroque Orthodox cathedrals poke out, and even a few brick Gothic ones. It's the perfect springtime view. Over the heavy wind, you can hear what I presume is royal military fanfare in the distance. The museum and the tower itself showcases not just the history of the castle and its role as a beacon and symbol of Vilnius, but also Lithuania's shared fight with Estonia and Latvia for Baltic freedom from the Soviet Union, namely the Baltic Way, where a human chain of millions of Balts linked together in song from Vilnius to Tallinn, a total of 650 kilometers. The castle complex doesn't stop there. In fact, the entire complex beneath the medieval tower was once home to the much larger Vilnius castle. Touring the palace of the Grand Dukes of Lithuania is fascinating, and it takes you through a visual, living tour of Lithuanian royal history. The palace itself isn't the most lavish I've ever seen. It's pretty simple in terms of its ornamentalism. The friezes in the ceiling are the most decorative part of the palace, which smells largely of rather new wood. Like much of Vilnius, the palace seems to be newly restored after several decades of neglect from the Soviet occupation. The rooms themselves are bold in their colors, however, from yellows to green to blue to red. Perhaps the most shiny is the bright red throne room, whose crown molding is painted in a vibrant, glossy, glittering gold. It's here, in the palace, that the crown of the Grand Duke of Lithuania lives encased in glass. Baroque architecture may be king in Vilnius, but they've got some classical masterpieces as well. Right next to the palace, on a wide, open, tiled public square, sits the Vilnius Cathedral. Originally built in the 13th century, it took on its current classical form in the 18th. Beige, bold columns encase the massive rectangular structure in a portico, where white stone statues built into the alcoves stand guard. The matching, conical, and black steepled bell tower at the front of the church was built in the 1400s, originally as a watchtower for the Vilnius lower castle. Today, its elegant bells chime out every 15 minutes. Inside the cathedral, a long nave of the same beige is lined with bold, rectangular columns, reaching up to fan-vaulted ceilings with intricate carvings in the form of leaves, plants, and flowers. Portraits of biblical scenes grace the columns, and small prayer rooms and vestibules sit on either side of the sanctuary. During Mass, the voice of the Lithuanian bishop echoes across the stone walls and granite floors. Pilia Street may seem like that classic European high street, but Gedimina Street feels like that polished Fifth Avenue equivalent of the city. This is definitely the main commercial shopping area in the Old Town. Art Nouveau, Baroque, and classical architecture line the dark brick-paved street, painted in elegant shades of beige, gray, and pink, and shaded by rows of young trees. It's quiet, but not too quiet. There are plenty of people out, but it doesn't feel rambunctious. Just a very casual atmosphere with different types of music ringing out from the restaurants and shops. Scents of cigarette smoke, restaurant foods, and commercial clothing and perfumes fill the breezy air. Breezy though it was, the weather in Vilnius can change on a dime.
Y'all, it was sunny today. It was, for about 5 minutes. Now it's cloudy again.
Perpendicular to Gediminas is Vilnius Street, a pedestrian-only promenade cobbled in dark stone. I get the sense that this street is a big pub area for students at the university. In the evening, the scents of cigarette smoke are much stronger, the music from the restaurants much louder, and the crowds much more lively.
Alright, so here's how you know Vilnius is a college town. It's a Sunday morning. There's a little bit of trash on a sidewalk from last night's fun. Everything is closed, and it is eerily quiet, except for this nice fountain here. But yeah, no, this is definitely a nighttime city.
I mentioned before that religious architecture is huge in Vilnius, and to really capture the atmosphere and the ambience of the city, I want to take you through a couple of these churches that represent the best of the best. St. Anne's Church is a brick, medieval Gothic structure whose spires are unique amongst the sea of Baroque domes, and the inside of the small nave is just beautiful. Attached to St. Anne's is the Church of St. Francis and St. Bernard, whose wooden decorated columns and fading medieval murals are uniquely captured in time. There's one church a little out of the way that, if you're ever in Vilnius, you really shouldn't miss: the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul.
Alright, from the pictures I've seen, this is a Baroque masterpiece. So let's go check it out.
The white painted stone interior is the most highly decorative and ornate cathedral I've ever seen. The monotone is unique, but it emphasizes the exquisitely detailed carvings which completely cover the surfaces in a collage of religious symbolism. Vilnius is green, and I don't mean that in a hyperbolic way. Only 39% of Vilnius's land area is actually developed. The rest of that 61% is a dedicated greenbelt.
Even walking through the parks and looking up at all the birdhouses and the trees, you get this very tangible sense that you're in this storybook here in Vilnius. It's a very charming town, and it's crazy because this is one of the biggest cities in the Baltics, but at the same time it feels so quaint somehow. There's only one real collection of skyscrapers, and everything else is very low to the ground and very green, very lush, and just very picturesque. Also, I can't get over how green this city is. It feels like one big garden, one big spring garden, and again, the rain really helps add to that ambience.
Right next to the old town is the Bernardine Garden, and it is breathtaking. I felt legitimately charmed by this park. Huge, mossy oak and walnut trees, most of which have numbered birdhouses attached, drape the lively grounds along the Vilnia River, which, fun fact, is where the city of Vilnius got its name. These grounds were once the grounds of a large monastery of Bernardine monks as far back as the 15th century. The air here smells like soapy florals and fresh water and is filled with the sounds of crows cawing, footsteps on fine gravel, and rippling water from the river. The cascading fountain at the center of the park randomly started dancing to Love Runs Out by One Republic during one of my strolls, and yes, everybody stopped to watch. This is one of those places I came back to multiple times to soak it in. At golden hour, it's even more beautiful as the bright greenery glows golden in the setting sun. But y'all, it gets better. Across the Vilnia and running alongside its main artery is a towering central park called Kalnai, at the base of a gargantuan wilderness reserve with designated trails where you can climb the forested peaks surrounding the city to visit various historical markers, memorials, and towers. It's a true urban oasis. The entire thing is covered in a lush, green canopy, and at its edges are absolutely stunning vistas over the city. It's incredibly earthy and woodsy, and you can literally smell the mahogany in the air. Sunset up at the Monument of Three Crosses can be a magical and almost dramatic experience. There's nothing quite like gazing over the storybook cityscape of Vilnius, basked in a yellow haze as the wind blows through your hair.
Alright, let's go check out the shiny new town.
Vilnius can feel like a tale of two cities when crossing over the Neris River. The new city center, the modern answer to the old town, is the total opposite of the old town. In this part of the city, things are far more modern and a bit sterile. There's lots of glass and steel, most of which seems to be accented in copper. There's a definite financial district vibe here.
Vilnius City Center, #tower.
It's quiet and rather shiny, with wide boulevards and few sounds outside of auto traffic and construction noise. Outside of the reflective high-rises and 21st century glass boxes, things look a little run down. There's a lot of industrial-looking tan brick, and it's generally a colder environment.
I feel like it seems like I'm painting a bad picture of the new town. I'm not. It's not bad. I just generally think that the high-rise glass and steel finance districts like this are generally not great. It's kind of how I feel about Charlotte, North Carolina, just as a whole, is how I feel about these financial districts in general. I just think they're soulless, right? There's so much charm and character in the old town. We come over to the new town, and the high-rises have interesting shapes and cool colors, it's very modern, but I just don't feel like it has that same soul and spirit that the old town has.
Potatoes, meat, and cheese are a versatile group of foods. How did I come to this conclusion? Well, because Lithuania has proven it. As its capital, Vilnius is home to some amazing Lithuanian classics. Here are the ones that I tried that I think capture the culinary vibe of both Vilnius and Lithuania as a whole. Cheese curd dumplings. Cheese curd dumplings are, well, exactly what they sound like. Little steamed balls of Lithuanian cheese. I chose to accompany mine with a sweet cream sauce, so it tasted more like a dessert than anything, but you could also do this with gravy, which I imagine is similar to poutine. Potato dumplings with meat. Moist, large potato dumplings stuffed with tender, juicy meat and drizzled in bacon chunks and its grease. This is a Lithuanian staple, and a delicious, hearty one at that. I found these on Pilia Street at Katsbedele. Fried bread with cheese. Y'all, this stuff slaps. It is so good. Deep fried bread with melted Gruyere topped with parsley. This is a classic Lithuanian beer pairing. That said, I accompanied mine with a dark Wolfas Engelmann lager. Cold beet soup. This cold soup is as pink as cold medicine, but it tastes remarkably green. Filled with beets, sour cream, and herbs, this thick Baltic soup staple came accompanied with roasted potatoes. Traditional minced meat dumplings. If you can't tell already, dumplings are pretty popular here. Steamed, filled with minced meat, moist, and squishy, these dumplings came with soured cream and were topped with herbs. Lithuanian tree cakes. Basically like shortbread, but in the form of a tree, you can find these at a few cafés, and if you're like me, you can just unwrap it and start having it right then and there over a morning cup of coffee. As with most of the world's major cities, capturing the full Vilnius experience in just a few days isn't possible. Every city is complex, multi-layered, and rich in its history, identity, and story, and the Lithuanian capital is no exception. My hope, however, is that by diving in with me through all 5 senses, you are able to place yourself imaginatively into the quaint, charming, green, and storybook-evoking streets of Vilnius in a way that makes you feel as if you were right there with me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.